In today's video, I'm sharing 3 tips to help you play better when your chops are feeling worn out. What's going on, everyone? My name is Josh Rzepka. Thanks for stopping by. I'm so glad that you are here. I just wanted to share a couple tips with you about what you can do when your chops, they're not feeling it, when they're feeling worn out, maybe a little beat up. We've all been there. We've played too much. Maybe we played a gig that was really very hard and we didn't warm up, or it was just a little bit beyond our ability. Maybe we practiced too much. Whatever the case may be, all of us at some point, we're gonna get to that point where our chops, they're just not feeling it. They are not feeling good because we abused them. We just worked a little bit too much. And I've got 3 strategies, 3 tips that you can use to really help you get back to home base, get to a place where you can play and feel good about your playing, no matter what you did to your chops the day before. Now, of course, if we damaged our chops, if we bruised them, if we actually injured them, then of course you have to take time off. You have to let them rest and heal. But if you just worked them a little bit too much and you're feeling stiff, if you're feeling like the response isn't quite there, these 3 tips are for you. All right, the first tip, focus on your air and not your chops. Of course, this is something we should always be doing, but this is something that is particularly important when our chops just aren't feeling it. It is so difficult to really focus on your air when your chops are kind of demanding your attention. You know, your chops are kind of going, man, this doesn't feel right. Nothing is quite feeling the way that it normally does, the way that we think it's supposed to. And because of that, what we start doing is focusing on our chops more and more and more. And if we're focusing on our chops, well, we're probably not focusing that much on our air, and it should really be the opposite. We should be ignoring how our chops feel. If your chops are, maybe the response isn't so great, they're just feeling a little swollen or a little puffy, or, they're just feeling a little dead, right? Focus on your air. Because the thing is, our chops, they change every single day. We shouldn't really go by feel anyway when we're playing. Like, we shouldn't rely on how the chops feel because they change based on temperature and humidity and maybe how much salt we ate. I mean, there are 1,000 factors that can change how our chops are gonna feel. That's just not really a great way to go about playing the trumpet. If we're always relying on how our chops feel and they're changing every single day, to me, that just doesn't seem like a great way to expect consistency out of our trumpet. We should really be focusing on our air because we can control our air and we can learn how to control our air better by playing long tones and breathing exercises and doing all of our technical studies the way that we need to every single day. So focus on your air, and that's gonna start getting you past how your chops feel. And if we can kind of just ignore how our chops feel, that's gonna at least get us into the ballpark, all right? Maybe we're not gonna be hitting a home run quite yet, but it's gonna get us into the ballpark. And that brings me to tip number 2, breath attacks. Breath attacks are something that I do in my playing every single day, no matter what, but particularly the days where my chops aren't quite feeling it, I really focus on breath attacks. When we are doing breath attacks, it is really forcing us to make sure that our lips are touching and that they are responding to our air. And if we can do a breath attack, then we can get our response. We can get the response happening in the horn. And when your chops aren't feeling it, that is one of the most important things you can do. Get your response back, right? We need to get centered. We need to get back to home base so that we can start warming up, so we can start playing, and so that we can play what we need to play. If you haven't done breath attacks, I'm gonna do a whole video on breath attacks coming up soon, but I always learned breath attacks as by saying poo. And some people say ha or different syllables, but I like to say poo, and that's the way that I learned how to do them from my teacher, Roy Poper at Oberlin. He studied with James Stamp, and he was a big proponent of buzzing, and part of his method as well was using breath attacks, and that it gets the lips together, it gets them working, and it gets your response. So then, once you've got that response and you are focusing on the air and not how your chops feel, that brings me to my 3rd tip, and that is soft and slow. We want to really ease into it, particularly on days when our chops aren't feeling it, because that allows us to really focus on our air and the response and just get things working and making sure that we are using our air and that we're not trying to muscle things into place or hold things into place with our chops, We want to just focus on ease. And I would really recommend that soft and slow as you're doing your daily warm-up. Whatever it is you normally do, if you normally spend 20 minutes doing your warm-up, spend 40 minutes. Do it really slow and take big breaks. And that is really going to allow your chops to recover and to start feeling better. Take it easy, take it slow, take it soft, and focus on those breath attacks. I would really use breath attacks for the first 20 minutes. Do half your warm-up with breath attacks. Do your whole warm-up with breath attacks so you can focus on the air so that you're not worried about what your tongue's doing or what anything else is happening, with your lips or chops. Focus on the air, focus on ease, getting that response. If you take these 3 tips and you apply it to your playing with your warm-up, just ease into it nice and slow, you may actually not get to the point where your chops feel 100%, where they feel totally fresh. But here's a secret that I've learned. It actually doesn't matter. How your chops feel is actually a little bit besides the point as far as execution on the trumpet and the ability to play and the ability to get the job done. I have played so many gigs where my chops did not feel good at all. And what I was doing was focusing on my air. I did a very slow and really easy warm-up where I took a lot of breaks. I did a lot of breath attacks. I focused on making sure my response was there. And then throughout the gig, even if my chops weren't feeling it, I just ignored them as best I could. And I really focused on the air and on production and just making sure I was doing things the right way. If you do that, you will be amazed. You will be shocked at how well you can play even if your chops aren't feeling it. You can play a gig and sound great and really just perform very, very well, even if your chops aren't feeling it. And that's something that is so important for everyone to learn, because our chops, they're not going to feel great every single day. Hopefully they're going to feel good or very good every single day. Sometimes they're going to feel amazing, but sometimes, even if you don't practice too much or if you don't wear them out too much, some days they might just not feel good for one reason or another. And we need to make sure that when that time comes, we are ready, that we have a strategy, and that we have something that we can kind of take out of our back pocket and put into use that will help us get through that day, so that hopefully the next day our chops are feeling better and we can get back to business as usual. One final tip, one more thing that you can do if your chops aren't quite feeling it. You see right here in the front, Robinson's Remedies. All right, sure, I'm a Robinson's Remedies endorser, but that's because this stuff works. This stuff is great. So that's just another thing that you can kind of just throw in your case and have and use to get your chops feeling better. But so important that we focus on our air, our response, soft and slow, and you're gonna get there. You are gonna be just fine. So I hope that this helped you out. If you've got any tips that you think are particularly helpful, write them down in the comments. I would love to hear what you do to help get your chops back to a place where they're feeling great, or at least where you can play and get everything done that you need to do. So I hope that this was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please click that like button, click the subscribe button. It really makes a very big difference. I want to thank you for watching today, and I will see you in the next video.